Sun and our speaker today, Hayley Winterberg. Before we get started and before I do my introduction, I would like to turn it over to Marissa to go over a few little highlights about participating in a Zoom presentation. So Marissa?
Hi everyone, welcome to Thoughtful Thursdays. So if you're new to Zoom, we just want to remind you of some housekeeping. So if you look at what's on the screen right now, you can see the microphone, it has a slash, or if it doesn't have a slash, that means that we can hear everything that's going on your side. So make sure that if you don't want us to hear what's going on, just make sure you have that slash mark, and we are going to stay muted until the end when we have our question session. And you can feel free to use that chat box, which is, it says chat underneath it, and it's like a little message. And you can definitely put your questions there, and again, in that question session is when we'll address them. But I know for me that sometimes I have a question, I need to write it down, so that's a perfect place to do it. We are recording this meeting, and we will be putting it onto YouTube later today, well, probably tomorrow, just so that anyone that couldn't join today is able to see the content that Hayley has. And if you want to raise your hand, but again, that'll be towards the question session. If you participants, another window will open and it'll have the little raise hand, and that just means that a little blue icon will be in the corner of your screen, and it'll just let us know you're raising your hand, and then we can address you towards the question session. If you have any, and that's basically it.
Great, thank you, Marissa. I am very excited and very pleased to announce our speaker for tonight's Thoughtful Thursday. We are very privileged to have Hayley Winterberg. Hayley Winterberg is the Member and Family Advocacy Coordinator for Magellan Complete Care of Arizona. In this role, she ensures that members and families are receiving the health care they need with the opportunity to have their voice heard to make system changes. She is very passionate about making a difference in the lives of members and their families by transforming the systems that serve them. Hayley has a long-standing passion for collaborating with Magellan. In 2008, she co-founded My Life, which is Magellan Youth Leaders Inspiring Future Empowerment, which started with 10 members, and at the first event attracted over 3,000 participants, which is amazing. Since then, she has traveled all over the United States to speak, organize events, and inspire similar groups supporting behavioral health and substance abuse. So I am very thrilled to turn this presentation over to Hayley to talk to us about recovering from stress, anxiety, or crisis situations. Take it away, Hayley.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for inviting me and having me here. I'm really honored, and I was excited when I got the email and said, hey, NAMI Valley of the Sun is looking for presenters, and kind of had given me an outline of topics, and I was like, yes, we need that right now. So I love your guys' Thoughtful Thursdays. I reviewed some of the previous ones, so having them on YouTube is fantastic. And I'm excited to be here. I think we are in some really unique times with COVID, with things going on regarding race and injustice and disparities all across the board, that I really want to make sure that we focus on ourselves and how do we make sure that we stay well, regardless of what crisis and what is happening in the world around us, that we make sure we take care of ourselves, because no one else can take care of us, and we can't take care of anyone else if we don't take care of us first. So I want to go over a little bit of kind of what I plan on talking about today. I want to go over how do I manage stress, right? I'm not a magical stress expert or anxiety expert, but there's some tips that have helped me in my own personal journey and in my family's journey. And so I want to make sure I share that, and hopefully that'll help someone else. As well as how do I manage my anxiety? I happen to have really, really bad anxiety at times, and that takes some unique skills to make sure you get to the other side and through that in a positive way. And let's face it, we are in a crisis, right? We all want to say unique times and challenging times but this is a crisis. Maybe it's different than the mental health crisis that we're used to, but that's going to be our second wave, and it's already starting our second wave. So we really have to explore, how do we recover from this crisis personally and as a community, because it takes us all. And I think a really key piece of that is making sure you have your personal health in check and your personal well-being in check as a whole person. And then once you have those together, you can then begin supporting other people. But notice, that's at the end. You can't start by supporting other people. You have to start by making sure you're well, you're in a good space. So a little bit about me. Letitia read my lovely bio that every time I want to hide my face, right? As I think most people do when someone is talking about them. But something that is really important is that you know who I am and why I want to talk to you. I'm a human being. I'm not, some random person they pulled out of nowhere. So for me, my recovery journey personally started when I was 12. However, I have many, many family members, including my parents, who have been diagnosed with substance use disorders as well as mental health conditions. And so that really gave me unique perspective growing up and a unique foundation to really take a look at what is recovery not, and how do I best navigate that for myself. And when I started my own journey and I started using substances and started to battle my own mental health demons and really finding what was it that I needed to recover from the things I saw as a child, like domestic violence and experiencing homelessness and, being the child of teen parents, that alone had its unique challenges. And I really needed to focus on my recovery. But what I realized was there wasn't a lot here in Arizona back then for young people. I had the option of, here's your meds and here's a counselor. Good luck to you. And for me, I needed more. I needed to know I wasn't alone. I needed to know that I could speak up. And I needed a place where I could be a normal teenager, right? And so with that, I got the lovely opportunity to partner with Magellan and many, many other fantastic young people, and we co-founded My Life. And that program now has 13 chapters in 5 different states. And I'm very happy that I get to still run our Arizona chapter. And because of COVID, we've switched that to a virtual platform as well, which has been really, really exciting to now I get to connect instead of just with my Arizona people, but with youth across the country who are experiencing challenges and giving them hope and inspiration and seeing them grow and blossom. And as I continued that journey, I graduated high school at 16, and I got my first national award. I now have received 2 more nationals and 3 locals. And so those are big honors for me to be recognized by my own community for the work that I get to do. And I then went and became a credentialed peer support and family support, which is something special to my heart, to be able to use my lived experience and use those not so great things I went through as a child, a teenager, and young adult, and to be able to use those to help others in their journey. Now I have 2 master's degrees. As you can see, I've got them hung up behind me because they're a big source for me. I worked hard for them. They tested my wellness, I will be honest with that. But at the same time, they give me the power to advocate and to support in making policy changes and to really lead in a way that makes an impact, not just on an individual level, but a systems level. And many people ask me, well, why would you advocate? Why did you stay, right? Because I could have become an adult and moved on. I started, right, when I was 12 doing this work. And For me, my why is my family. I have an amazing husband, and I have a son who has behavioral health needs himself, and I have a little guy who has some unique medical special needs. He has two, almost, we're waiting on the confirmation on the third unique genetic condition that all have very, very different impacts on his physical well-being. And then I also have the pleasure to have 7 adopted siblings that light up my world. They will probably tell you that their big sister is obsessed with them. They're not wrong. And then, how did I get through all of this? How did I get where I am today? I can't say I am where I am, and I think this is a huge piece when talking about managing stress and anxiety and recovering from crisis, is I have a fantastic family of choice. So this was taken at my wedding a year ago. So this is every single person I had invited to my wedding. And my photographer told me that I was out of my mind when I said I wanted a photo of everyone at my wedding. She's like, I've never done that before, and you're inviting a lot of people. I said, I know, but each and every one of them is family to me. And so, ironically, there's only 2 people I'm biologically related to in this photo, and that's my mom and my son. And one of the things that means the world to me about this photo is we're all making a goofy face. That's something I love to do. You got to shake it off. You got to laugh it off. And so everyone has an epic face, and I have mentors in here, and I have family friends of 15, 20 years, and I have coworkers, and they are the people who help me get through the good days, the bad days, that really support me through thick and thin. And I think it's so key to choose what's your family of choice, right? My biological family, they mean well, but they are not always the best for my wellness. And I had to make a decision as to what do I need to do for me and my wellness, and wish them all the best. And then build a new family. It wasn't, oh, I'm going to go live in isolation now. It's, how can I build something that works for me, that is healthy, that is positive, and that will bring me to the next level? And this became my family, and they're fantastic. So I think, right, I don't want to start off with the cliche as we're talking about stress and anxiety with meditation, but it is so key when we think about how can we regulate ourselves through breathing, through taking that moment to pause for that meditation. It's a lot more than the meditation itself. When I started doing meditation, I couldn't quiet my brain, and I was lucky enough to have a coach who told me, that's okay. Stop trying to quiet your brain. Just be. Just do the best you can. And so I ask, as I start this video, just do the best you can. If you aren't comfortable closing your eyes, don't close your eyes. If you're not comfortable participating, just hang out for 2 minutes, almost 3, and it'll be over and we'll continue on. But I definitely encourage you to challenge yourself and to try it if meditation's not your thing. You never know. Sometimes there's really good ones. There's ones with cuss words. If that's your jam, there's some with, nature sounds, and then there's some that have soothing voices, and men and women. There's a lot of options. You just have to find what works for you. This video actually came from the Veterans Administration, so I want to thank them and give them a shout out for that.
Now I'll do a demo of loving kindness meditation. Come to a nice, comfortable seat with your eyes closed. Take in a slow, deep breath. Slow exhale out. I want you to think of someone you love. Picture their face and their smile. Picture loving energy surrounding that person you love. Say to yourself, as if saying it to that person, may you be happy. May you be well. May you be at peace. Again, you're picturing that person, your love, seeing their face, their smile, picturing the loving energy surrounding them as you say to them, may you be happy, may you be well, may you be at peace. Slow breath in. Exhale out. Now, picture someone you like, maybe someone you work with. You appreciate them. You see their face and their smile, and you picture loving energy around them. And you say, may you be happy, may you be well, may you be at peace. Last, picture someone maybe you're having challenges with at work, at home, or somewhere you frequent. Picture their face, see their smile, picture loving energy around them, and now say to that person, may you be happy, may you be well, may you be at peace. Deep breath in, slow breath out. Slowly blink your eyes open to open state of waking consciousness.
Thank you for participating in that little meditation. I hope it helps kind of ground you and center you. So I wanted to share my own personal stress reduction techniques, as well as some of the things that I help use for the children that I have in my home, as well as youth I've worked in the past. I think the most important thing as we're managing our own stress and starting to regulate our stress responses to life, and that stress can be natural stress. There's okay stress, right? There's a lot to do at work, and there's a lot going on at home and the world, right? And then there's traumatic stress, like a fire, witnessing a crime, domestic violence, experiencing abuse, right? Those cause traumatic stresses, and they impact our body very differently. But the core of it, there are things that we can do regardless of the type of stress to begin to regulate ourselves to get back to a healthy place. Because the longer we stay in a stress response, the longer we'll have impacts for and could potentially cause health concerns later on in life. So the first one that I always try to do is take some deep breaths, right? I think we've all been in a meeting or at a family dinner where there's something that just gets our blood boiling. And for me, I know that this is the time I need to take a step back and I just need to have some deep breaths. And you can have some deep breaths and no one's even realizing what it is that you're doing. So it's a way to regulate yourself in the moment, real live, and no one else can know. You can do a meditation like we just practiced, or what my 6-year-old absolutely loves is we use balloons. I dare you, you cannot blow up a balloon without deep breathing. It's not possible. Right? You have to inhale big and you've got to blow that out. And so that's a way that I have used to work with youth in the past, as well as working with him to kind of force them into some deep breathing and really starting to get that good air in and let that steam out. And then afterwards, pop it. Get rid of that stress. Be gone. Um, and then get moving. You know, this was something that for years I had therapists and coaches and mentors of, if you get moving, it'll help. And I was like, yeah, I'll get to that. Working out is not for this girl. Like, that's not going to be a part of my wellness. That causes more stress. I don't know what you're talking about. But then I started working out, and I had to not create the expectation of, oh, I'm going to walk 3 miles. I didn't start there. I started with, I want to just walk around my neighborhood street. Okay, I can do that. Let's add a little bit more to that and add a little bit more. And then I eventually was able to get up to, I walk 3 miles several times a week. And that really helps me manage the stress. If I'm having a bad day, if something was upsetting, if something triggered my stress response, I get moving. Whether that's I'm doing a few push-ups on the floor or doing some squats, just get your body moving. And it doesn't always have to be working out, just move. Our bodies are meant for movement, so move them a little bit and slowly build your way up. Connect with nature is another huge piece for me. The power that putting my feet in the grass or, touching the ocean or a lake has can just make a huge difference. I often take breaks throughout my workday, especially now that we're all virtual. I think we can get really stuck into just watching a screen all day that we forget that there's sunshine and air and trees and birds and beauty outside. So take a moment and step out every once in a while during your day. It's okay to take a break from the screen and enjoy some air for 5 minutes. And recharge. And I mean recharge in a larger sense. Do whatever it is that refuels you. A lot of us, the basic way to recharge is sleep, but that can also be connecting socially. I know for me, I am very much so an extrovert. And so being inside with just my family and not having my coworkers and my colleagues and community members and the members I support and the young people I support, not having that around me all the time has made a difference. So I've had to explore new ways of connecting, and more than just a Zoom video, but sometimes it's phone calls and sometimes it's playing a game together virtually, but find a way that connecting works for you. And mindfully eating. It's really easy to grab that comfort mashed potatoes and potato chips for me. I will tell you that with all certainty. And ice cream, I love me some ice cream. The challenge with that is when I respond to stress in that way, I end up just adding more stress, and my body isn't getting the healing nutrients it needs in that stress response time to really start to regulate. I have found what a difference it makes if, when I'm starting to get stressed out, if I grab an apple instead or I drink some water. What a difference those nutrition rich foods and having that water to hydrate me makes a difference. For a long time, I used to have a checklist, and it was always on every computer at every place I ever worked that said, did you drink water? How much did you sleep? When did you last eat? Because I could guarantee if I was cranky, if I was mad, if I was stressed out, I was missing one of those three, if not all of them. Guaranteed, hands down. And the second I fixed it and I either got some water, ate some food, or took a nap, magically, I no longer wanted to bite people's heads off. Let's be real. Hangry, tired, not drinking water, we can become our not best selves. And then for me, how I manage my stress is I make lists and I prioritize. And I have two very different lists. Actually, I have three. I have one list that's everything that I would like to get done, all the projects I'm managing, all those, things that pop into mind. Oh, I've got to call my kid's doctor. Oh yeah, I've got to, make this new flyer. I've got to build this program. And then I have a list of this is what I'm doing this week. And then I take a daily list and make that list small. Give yourself the opportunity to win, not the opportunity to feel more stress. And so I keep that at under 5 things, that I will get these 5 things done today. And also, to manage my stress, I had to learn to disconnect. I have deleted Facebook from my phone this week because I needed to disconnect from the abundance of media and a lot of the negativity and people fighting that I love and care for dearly and people not showing their best selves. I needed to disconnect from that and had to learn that's okay for me to say no. And I will check in every once a day on my computer. I look up and I get my 10-minute fix and I go, yep, I'm good. And close it back up for a little while and hopefully I'll come back. But I know for me right now what was best for my stress is to disconnect. So I encourage you to do the same. Disconnect from whatever it is. If it's your phone, if it's a game, if it is what's going on at home, disconnect for a little while. Give yourself that time to recharge. And then anxiety. Anxiety can be very, very different from stress. And I think sometimes people mix them up, or they think anxiety means that you're just hyperventilating. For me, sometimes my anxiety is that I'm completely frozen. You know, there's the fight, flight, freeze. Sometimes for me, my anxiety causes me to freeze. And so those are all very valid anxiety responses. And however you're responding, that's okay. Own it and experience that and allow yourself to feel. But there's some things I've learned over the years that have helped me manage mine. One is building a routine. And that routine, I make sure I allow it to change, because if you say, this is my routine and this is written in concrete, and then a curveball happens, you're probably just going to respin yourself into another anxiety attack. But really making sure that you've got a core, right? Right before I go to bed, I know I'm going to take a shower. I'm going to brush my teeth. I'm going to take my medicine. I'm going to read a little bit of a book, and then I'm going to go to bed. Doesn't matter at what time that is, those steps are going to happen. And then I stick to facts. I can be the what if queen. I can give you a whole bunch of conspiracy theories, right? My brain is active. I've got ADHD. It is going a mile a minute. I can give you all kinds of possibilities. But what I've really had to find, when I am in a point of struggling, or my son is a warrior. I love him to pieces, but I'm pretty sure he worries about why the sky is blue some days. And I have to support him in just sticking to the facts. You know what? It doesn't matter why the sky is blue. The sky looks blue. And so stick to what it is that we know, what's factual, and avoid doing those what if scenarios. You can what if yourself to death. And taking a look at how is media and social media impacting you. I know with my young people, I sometimes had to, when I ran a young adult center, I had to say, all right, everybody put their phones away for the next hour. And it would be amazing to see how different they would shift in that 1 hour of not staring at a device and having this constant stimuli, how much more relaxed and calm they were to take on the world. And take some time to reassure your children. You know, I know not everyone's a parent, but for some of us that are, know if you're experiencing anxiety, your kiddo is probably seeing that and starting to feel it too. And so taking that time to reassure them, sometimes when I'm reassuring my son, I end up reassuring myself even more. So if it's nieces and nephews in your life, grandchildren, take that time to provide them some reassurance and what's going on in the world so they feel safe and comfortable. And you'd be surprised at the impact that'll help you as well. I often, I do an activity, and it actually was talked about on the last Thoughtful Thursday, which I found amazing, was pause and use your senses. So you've got 5 senses. What's 5 things you see, 4 things you feel, 3 things you hear and 2 things you smell and 1 thing you taste. Again, this is something, your senses, they go everywhere with you. Whether you're in the car, whether you're at work, whether you're at home, you can stop and take a minute to recognize those senses and reground and center yourself. Remember, it's 1 thing at a time. Rome wasn't built in a day. You don't have to be Superwoman and do, or Superman and do all things to all people at once. Another thing I always try to encourage is try a new self-care technique. There are so many different versions of self-care. I think a mistake we all make is we all think, oh, self-care, that's exercise, eating and drinking good, and like a bubble bath. That's good self-care. And really, there's a lot of options. There's self-soothing and grounding yourself and connecting yourself to what those senses are. Self-care can be distractions. That can be crafts. That can be playing a game. That can be different crossword puzzles. I'm sorry if you can hear any screaming in the background. That's actually my umbrella cockatoo. Apparently, my husband has left the room in there, so she's saying, "Where's my mommy?" And hopefully you can't hear her, but just in case. Sometimes they use distraction too as music and movies. There's a lot of options outside of a bubble bath, and doing the opposite. So if you're feeling stressed, go watch something funny, tell yourself some positive things. I know that that's super cliche as well, but it has a dramatic impact. And then acknowledging your emotions and really taking the time to own them, feel them, whether that's a journal, whether that is just listing them out, whether that's talking with a friend, practicing mindfulness, like the meditation we tried earlier. And sometimes developing a crisis plan or using your crisis plan is another great way to cope. I don't think we always talk about that because we think, oh, that's when coping failed. No, that's when your coping is at its best, because when you are in a crisis, that is when you need to cope the most. And that is when you reach out and you connect and you follow those resources. And that's going to be the best way. And that really shows true strength when you say, hey, I need more help than I can just do myself right now. And then when we're recovering from a crisis, and I'm going to use crisis here very broadly because there's behavioral health crisis, which I have experienced myself. There's this COVID crisis, right? We have political crisis. We have a huge racial crisis right now, and unfortunate, unfair treatment happening in our world. There's trauma crises. There's so many different crises. And recovering from them is so essential because we can choose to stay in that crisis mode, or we can choose to get up and take care of ourselves and build a new normal and overcome that crisis. Recovery for me has not been linear in any of my crises, as well as in life in general. So don't expect your recovery to be presto, you're ready to go. It doesn't work that way. We have to acknowledge the impacts and the changes that happened from that crisis. If you lost your job, it's okay to own the impact that had on not only your financial well-being, but your emotional well-being. And explore what lessons learned there are after the crisis. I don't encourage you to try to do this in the middle of your crisis, but afterwards, take a step back. And what did you learn from it? Who did you learn are amazing support people for you? What did you learn about yourself and your own inner strength? Another really key piece is to build a new normal. My dad experienced a traumatic brain injury from a really horrendous motorcycle accident. And for years, we tried to go back to the way things were. And that wasn't possible. And it wasn't until him and I sat down and said, let's start over. And we literally started with reintroducing ourselves. And that created a new normal for us. We built a new life from that point on. And then we made sure that we connected. Right? Connecting in a crisis can be key. Call your friend, call your family, call whoever is your support person. keep yourself that priority, right? That was the main topic, right? And my subject line. And because I think no matter what is happening in our world, whatever is happening, and it took me a long time to recognize this and really adopt this as a philosophy. But the more you take care of you, the more you have to give. I had to learn to be selfish, as some called me at the time, and say, nope, I'm sorry, I can't help you with that project. I'm going to be spending time with my kids. Or no, honey, I'm sorry to my son, but I need to go work out at the gym. And so that is what I need to do. And as I take care of me, I can be a better mommy. So making sure that you give yourself that time to take care of you and to make sure that you are well and that you are a priority. And once you take care of you, you can then begin to support other people in their times of needs. You can really take a look at how are you going to establish your boundaries, again, to take care of you first. Are you okay with people calling you in the middle of the night, or does your phone go off at 8 o'clock, or at 5 o'clock are you done helping others? What is your boundary, right? Are you going to be willing to support people on the weekends, or is that not for you? What is your boundary? Are you willing to support people in a crisis, or do you recognize that that's your limit, right? And you've got to establish what are those boundaries for you internally. What is your limit? Know them and own them and be upfront and communicate with that. And recognize, I think sometimes when we get focused on helping others, we try to fix it and we try to say, oh, I've got it, I know the answer. And we might fumble in an area that we know we don't really know about. And I want to encourage, as you help others, connect with the experts. It's okay to say, you know what, I'm not sure what to say right now, but I know someone who might. Or, you know what, I don't really know what to do. Let's go find out a resource together. Let's find someone who can help you together and connect with those experts. You don't have to be the expert in everything. You just have to be willing to walk someone with their journey to the person who can help them. And be human, be real. We don't have to be robots as we help others. We just have to own our humanity and say, hey, I messed up if we messed up. Or, you know what, I realized that maybe I shouldn't have said that and I'm sorry if it hurt you. Or, you know what, I have no idea. Or, I've never experienced that. Can you tell me more? Give those human moments and know that that's okay as you're supporting others. They're going to respect the realness and your vulnerability to be honest with them, and thus be more vulnerable and honest the more you are. And be trauma informed. We never know what someone we're talking to, whether it's a friend, a family member, a client we're working with, anybody. We never know what they are going through unless we take a step back and just act as though everyone has experienced something negative in their life, and take that extra care and caution. And remember, there's nothing wrong with anybody. There's things that have happened to them. And as long as we respond with that love and compassion and take that moment to be human when we need to be human with them, that's okay. One of the things I like to show when helping, talking about helping others, is you don't have to be a fixer. And I feel like this really, really short video is the perfect example of we don't have to fix everything.
It's just, there's all this pressure, you know? And sometimes it feels like it's right up on me, and I can just feel it, like literally feel it in my head, and it's relentless. And I don't know if it's gonna stop. I mean, that's the thing that scares me the most, is that I don't know if it's ever gonna stop.
Yeah. Well, you do have a nail in your head.
It is not about the nail.
Are you sure? Because, I mean, I'll bet if we got that out of there...
Stop trying to fix it.
No, I'm not trying to fix it. I'm just pointing out that maybe the nail is causing...
You always do this. You always try to fix things when what I really need is for you to just listen.
See, I don't think that is what you need. I think what you need is to get the nail
See,
out.
you're not even listening now.
Okay, fine. I will listen. Fine.
It's just... Sometimes it's like there's this achy... I don't know what it is. And I'm not sleeping very well at all. And all my sweaters are snagged. I mean, all of them.
Yeah, that sounds really hard.
It is. Thank you. Ow!
Oh, come on. Ow. If you would just...
Don't...
Try to see things my way. Do I have to keep on talking till I can go?
So hope you enjoyed that little snippet, but it's not about the nail. It's about the feelings that she's feeling. Some of the things we're going through right now, it's not about COVID. It's not about what's happening in the rest of the world. It's about other things that have happened in our past. It's about feeling disconnected. It's about feeling fear. It's about feeling unknown. There's so many things that we just don't know, and there's so many feelings to feel, and every single one of them is valid. And again, as we go through this time, we have to take care of ourselves. I have all the different priorities that I'm managing in life, right? I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm an employee, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, a friend, an aunt, a church member, an advocate. I'm busy working and cooking and cleaning and caring, and there's just a lot, right? There's a lot happening in our world that I and everyone else is managing at one time, and I could have probably put up a million more words and photos up there. But remember, we all have very unique and diverse lives, and I can't be all of these at the same time. It's just not possible. And so I think sometimes we try to do that, right? We talk about, I'm juggling. We're not jugglers. Unless you are, then that's great. But I'm not a juggler. I wasn't meant for the circus. What I am really meant for is making sure that when I'm being a mom, that is my full-time focus. When I'm being a wife, that is my focus. When I am working and being an employee, that I am being the best employee that I can during those times. And that each one I'm giving the focus and attention to for that role, for those people in that moment. So some of my steps for wellness that I hope that you will leave tonight thinking about, or whenever you watch the YouTube later, is remember, you can't be all things to all people at the same time. You're important, and you have to put yourself first. Take everything one step at a time. Remember to do mind, body, and soul checks. And I mean checking in with, what am I feeling in my mind? What am I feeling throughout my body? What is happening in my soul and my spirit? But also seeing your doctor, seeing a mental health professional, connecting with a support group, really connecting with your spirituality, whatever works for you to make sure that your mind, body, and soul is one and complete, and that you are healing you at all times is important. And then never, ever, ever, ever be afraid to reach out for help. Continue to ask people for help and make sure that you reach out when you need it, because there is nothing wrong with asking for help, and acknowledge the trauma that you have experienced, the trauma and the people that you are supporting, the trauma of our world, and say that's okay, and begin to heal and support in our community of healing. My most favorite one is celebrate the little wins. I have these adulting stickers actually here in my office at home, because we can have the perfect to-do list. We can try to balance. But you know what? Some days you just gotta celebrate that you actually washed your hair. right now as we're working at home, if we put on real pants, that is an accomplishment. And that can be self-care, that alone. That can be your stress management. That can ease your anxiety. Whatever it is that works for you, right? When school time was going on and I was trying to homeschool my son and work and take care of him, there was days where, you know what? I kept him alive and I didn't get fired today. Those were wins. And so we just have to own those and continue to celebrate those little wins that we have in our lives. You know, there's no such thing as a small win. So the most important person that could ever love you is you. There's no one that's going to love you more than you. So with that, is where I leave you, and I want to open that up for some questions. And you know, I have my contact information up here as well, so feel free, if you have questions, you may email me as well if you're not comfortable sharing with them. Otherwise, I can take a look at the chat, and you know, feel free if you want to come up on video and ask me that way, that's okay too.
Hayley, that was wonderful. Thank you so much for imparting your wisdom on all of us. And yeah, let's open it up to see if anybody has any comments or questions out there. And I'll give people a chance to unmute. And perhaps you can maybe stop the screen share so we can maybe see who's,
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, Carol and Terry. Oh, you're on mute, Carol. Oh. Yeah, we still can't hear her.
Is that it?
Yes, now we can hear you.
I still have an adoptive son. He's 40 now, but when he was very young, and he was very traumatized, and it was so difficult. I can remember after a while, one day I said, I think the only thing I did right today was I didn't send him back. And then I just kept trying to do that. You know, if nothing else went right, I just didn't send him back. And now he's 40, you know.
Yep. It's those little things that get us through every day.
I certainly can add to that. I think I've shared with my staff and certainly with Lenore that one of my biggest struggles professionally and personally is anxiety. And it's kind of what led me to the world of behavioral health. And sometimes people think anxiety is trendy and everybody experiences it. But when you really experience it at a life-limiting level, it can really impact your life, and it can impact your social world, your professional world, and the amount of work that goes into participating in your own life can be exhausting. And the amount of planning that goes into managing your anxiety is incredible. And so I think I took away a lot of reminders that I've let myself forget that I need to really rethink about. And thank you so much for that, because I think, you know, you get trapped into wanting to do so well and to impress people and to not let your weaknesses show, that you build this barrier around you that prevents you from being your true authentic self. And some of your slides were so poignant and really point me in the direction of some self-care that's needed. And so I took away a lot today, Hayley. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think we all forget those back to basics, right? We get caught up in helping others and changing the world that we forget ourselves and those things that made us well enough to do the work that we do. Well, if we forget that, how do we change the world?
Agreed. And to Carol and Terry, just a little shout out to you. I too have a child who I adopted when she was 6 and she's now 25. And one of my greatest accomplishments each day was like, she's still with me, we're still together, and I didn't give her back. So I can absolutely feel your pain on that and very proud to have made it through the other side. So thank you for that.
As a foster mom, I can agree. There have been many days where we survived the day and DCS did not show up and I did not call them.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And, you know, just not to take over the closing, but I just was thinking about it when Carol was talking, that our very first visit when we adopted Tori from the Department of Health, they came to kind of check on her to see how she was doing. And it happened to be the day that my daughter decided to climb a tree and decided to fall out of a tree. And she fell out of the tree slowly, sliding, skidding down the bark of the tree. So she ends up with social services with all of the scrapes and scratches and asking her, how do you like your new placement? Talk about anxiety.
Yes.
Yeah, but fast forward 20 years and she's doing amazing. All right, let me ask anybody else if there's any last comments or questions, and certainly we can forward anything to you, Hayley, if people don't feel comfortable doing it right now. But let me scan the group, and I think we might be good because nobody's unmuting. So with that, Hayley, thank you so much for your time, for your wisdom, for allowing us to kind of peek into your personal life and knowing how you've managed your anxiety, and we will absolutely use those tools for ourselves in the future.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me. It was a true pleasure to be here tonight and to share my story and hopefully some things that will help people in their journey. So thank you so much. It was a true honor.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Hayley. Thank you. Well, I've hit leave several times. Assign and leave.